Mellow Mechanic here. So today we are back dealing with my golf cart here, and as you can see, I got the transmission and motor back in. Now the video I did before this, I took it apart to show you how I mated these, but I put a cam in the motor and we have an issue with the cam that hopefully I can address today. So what I think is happening is the compression release that I want on the cam is too aggressive. And I think it's letting too much compression out because it's not catching. It'll fire and just doesn't have enough power to kind of accelerate off the compression release. And so I will show you what it does here, and I'll prime it with my spray, just like that. And we'll see what happens here. Got my throttle here. So it catches like that. I can't ever get it to go faster than that. So let's take a look and see what's happening with the compression release there. Alright, so here's the cam I'm using. Twister Performance camshaft. That's for the 420 Predator right there. 250 thousandths lift. Duration 246. Lobe separation 110. Valve lash hot. 5 thousandths on the intake, 8 thousandths on the exhaust. So do not use dual springs. I don't have dual springs. Alright, so I took the valve cover off. I took the spark plug out. Let me run the motor here. So we have the exhaust valve, and that's the intake valve. And so that's the exhaust stroke, and that's the intake, and this little blip right there. Did you see it? Right there. Alright, I've loosened my valve adjuster on this thing, so I'm really only getting 20 thousandths compression relief on the valve itself. So I went from 40 to about 20, so that's about half. And I got probably a ton of valve lash here. Look at that. It's quite a bit. Let's put the spark plug back in and see if it'll crank over. Alright, I've put the spark plug back in. My valve cover is still off. Spray some Go Juice in there. Let's see what it'll do. Alright, it kicked right over with 20 thousandths on that compression release. See what it'll do now. Alright, so 20 thousandths seems like a good number. So we have to figure out how much to take off the little lobe on the cam to get us 20 thousandths lift on that compression release. Okay, so I've taken the motor out. I have it set up on the workbench here, so let's just double check our numbers to make sure now that everything's mounted to a workbench, we're not getting any slop. So I have it zeroed out on the exhaust valve. The exhaust valve is set to 8 thousandths. Let's see here. Looks like we're getting exactly 50 thousandths. So 50 thousandths of lift right there. Alright, let me set it up for the... We'll put it on the valve to see what we're getting here. We're pretty close to what we measured in the cart, but let's just doing this just to double check. Alright, got it set up on the valve, set at 0. So where do I need to go? That looks like that's 40. Looks like on 42. Maybe 43. Yeah. About 43, so we get 50 thousandths. 50 thousandths lift there and 43 thousandths on the valve. But here's the cam, and the piece we're looking to modify is this little finger right here. So the exhaust valve rides in here and it hits this little bump right there, and that releases some of the compression as this cam goes around. And then as the cam speeds up, this weight flings outward like this, and that moves this little lever out of the way. So you can kind of see right here, right there, the little witness right there. That is where the edge of the lifter rides on. So that's where we got to modify that little bit right there. But if you look at this, there's no real good way to measure this right here, because you can kind of roll it. You know, I can't quite get on top of that. So I think what we're going to do is kind of do trial and error maybe. Take a little bit, measure it in the motor, take a little bit, measure it in the motor. Maybe that's what we'll do. Or maybe I'll set this up on the lathe on some centers. Maybe I'll do that. We can do it on the lathe. See if that'll work. Alright, I got my cam chucked up in my lathe between centers here. And what I've done is I use that back of the lobe as my datum. Alright, so that's a 0. Alright. Alright, I got it ground down and I think I'm pretty good. So let's see here. It's right there is where the edge of it was riding. So that's about 27 thousandths. On the high spot right there. About 27. Now I think this will settle down as it wears. But anyway, let's put her back together and see if that fixed it. Alright, here's my second try at fixing this cam here. So I got my Dremel mounted in the lathe, so I figured I would use that as opposed to just doing it by hand. And I got my dial indicator there. And so what I would do, I don't know if you can see it here, is that piece right there. That is the compression release lever. See how it moves? Right there. And so what I would do is I'd come in here and rotate it like this and move the lathe back and forth that way and grind it off a little bit. So I went a little too far on the first round, so I added some weld, kind of spot welded the top of it, and came back on this rig and ground it down. So I'm down to 40 thousandths as opposed to 25, and that seemed to be the trick. So I don't know what happened to my math. I don't know if there's just about a bunch of lash in there or something, but anyway, that seemed to work. So just got to polish up some edges here, clean it up, and put her back together. Let's do that. All right, so I got the motor back in the cart, got the cam in it and everything like that. I adjusted the valves on it so they're at their correct clearance there. It's got gas, it's got battery. Let's see if it kicks over. Let's see here. Kicked right on over, so that modification worked beautifully. Now I had to do it twice. For whatever reason, my math didn't work. So the second time I did it, I left a lot of room left on it. So I got a little bit more compression release than the first try. But I don't know why I had to modify it. This should have worked. I think it's all the other modifications I did. It just didn't like it. So I had to take a little bit off so it's got a little bit more compression and it would fire over. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching.